What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Real Combat, the most ballistic combat show ever. Not true, but it is a great, fun movie debate show, and I have two very special guests tonight who are going to be debating over 60s horror movies and which one I should watch tonight. In my right corner of the screen, I have Mr. Tim Forbes, and versus his older brother, Mr. Dan Gal. Now I'm going to put you guys in the right place. I'm going to put me down here, flip you around, get you all
ready to be here.
Woo! Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming on. This has been a lot of fun, and as soon as you guys agreed, I'm like, this is going to be interesting.
Oh, it's a great format, and all the previous episodes, a lot of good quips, a lot of good fun, and I hope that the rightful victor comes out on top today.
I mean, we'll see. I don't think I'll have nearly as many quips as Casey, and he certainly brought out many debate points, so we'll see.
Yeah, he came prepared, man. That one shocked me because I was not going to pick Army of Darkness when that started. And by the end, I was like, you somehow tricked me into going with it? Even though I love that movie, don't get me wrong. But real quick, before we get started and introduce the movies, I want to go over some of the comments because they are all here for us and we love them. Whiskey, where are you? Whiskey, howdy, I'm here for the brother fight. It's going to happen. John, greetings, programs. Everybody's here for each other. We all love each other for sure. Whiskey, all righty. And look at them handsome young men. You must be talking about you two because it ain't me. So we're getting started.
Maybe Kenyon wasn't expecting, the younger version.
Oh no!
Man down. It's already started. I might have to let him win just because I can tell he's mad now. I kid, of course. Before we get started and reveal the movies, I want you guys to introduce yourselves and promote anything you got going on, please.
Awesome. Dan Gowell, previously of Master Shake's moderately entertaining mixology minutes. Nothing really big going on with me right now, other than 31 Days of Halloween, just like everybody else. It's a big horror fan. My biggest thing that I could plug right now actually is you, Mick. I got my pin wearing. Still don't get it. Like camera thing, man. And a lot of cool Halloween Scene Snob stuff going on. If you guys haven't seen the clip for debating whether or not Felissa Rose is a Scream Queen from today, I recommend it. It's really good.
That was one thing I will say about that episode. Take Casey and I out of it and just listen to Frank Sabatella, who directed The Shed, talk about writing horror films and things like that. Blew me away. I just had a great time with just that.
Yeah, it was great.
Tim, sir, please. I appreciate the accolades, though.
Yeah, no, I don't feel like I have too much to plug here. I feel like you generally have directors or podcasters, and Dan and I are a little more of your normal everyday Joes. I work in accounting. So I will say, as always, I'll plug Sunday Scares just because really like seeing people show up to that, and we have a lot of great movies. I think this week it's Ron Zilla, and he's doing The Blob and Videodrome. So be an interesting double feature. Both are on Peacock, so there'll be some ads, but we'll fight through them as we always do.
I love that so much because the Gate and Blade, which Katie hosted last week, was a lot of fun. And
The Gate is such a fun movie, but such a horrific children's movie. And that's the only way I can put it.
So bad for that. And I saw it when I was like around that age. I was like, no.
Scared the crap out of me the first time I saw it. I got my wife all like geared up for it though, and then she's like, "This isn't scary." I'm like, "Yeah, it hits a little different when you're, in your mid to late 20s versus, being 10."
Yeah, when you're the same age as the kid in it, you're like, yeah, I don't know about this. I will say, anybody who's just joining in or watching, Sunday Scares, use the hashtag on Twitter every Sunday. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. We watch two movies. It's a lot of fun. There's a different host every week, and everybody who's hosted has truly been fun and fantastic. Except me. I was terrible.
Untrue. There is no bad host of Sunday Scares. Even the bad movies are good because we make it that way.
Well, I do want to say this. We got Ward on here. Ward, thanks for joining in. Patricia, everybody's on here, and it's just great to see so many familiar faces. It's going to get nasty. Now, can you guys say without a doubt that it's going to get nasty, or you're going to keep it clean? What's this going to be?
There might be choco violence. There may be.
The family reunion, nobody shows up. Sheer call because of Real Combat. Well, without further ado, because I have no idea what movies you chose. I don't know if you told each other.
Nope.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
I might have, while under the influence of adult beverages, let it slip, but I don't think Timmy caught it.
Probably not.
Okay. I love it, though. But so basically how it works is the oldest movie goes first. You're going to argue for the movie and why I should watch it. Then, of course, the next person goes, and then we do round two, where you got to get to rebuttal each other's arguments. And then we'll go into personal feelings of the movie and why you chose them, and then I'll make my final decision.
Sounds great.
All right. So, Tim, we're going to start with you. What is your movie this evening?
All right. So we're leaving Romania, and we're going all the way to Germany. We are doing Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, the greatest Dracula movie based in Germany ever created.
I love it. All right.
1968.
I've never seen it, but I love that you chose it.
Oh, you've never seen it. Okay,
Nope,
here we
so
go.
That's something right there. Now, Dan, what do you got for me?
None other than 1961's Roger Corman classic, The Pit and the Pendulum.
Oh.
And you took that, the older the movie gets to go first. I love it. All right, so in the coin toss, you win, Dan, because you picked the older movie. You get to argue first, and then we go from there.
So The Pit and the Pendulum, obviously I'm an English teacher, so it draws me toward it in the first place. But it is, among some circles, considered to be Roger Corman's best film. He was doing them at a time where he was just trying to pay his bills. And if you think about that while you're watching it and you see Vincent Price on screen playing two different roles. So he plays both the protagonist as well as like these flashbacks of the protagonist's father. And so if you add that later on to the literary aspect, which is this movie sets up one of the greatest horror stories ever told. The Pit and the Pendulum, short story by none other than Edgar Allan Poe, is a phenomenal Halloween horror tradition for me. I reread it every year. And those things combine together to make what Stephen King called the single most influential horror movie ever made. And I thought that was a lot of power coming from somebody like Stephen King. Now, there's also a wonderful actress in it that is well known for 60s and 70s kind of low-budget horror. She worked with Corman as well as other low-budget directors. Her name is Barbara Steele. Now, I don't know a lot about her, but I thought this was awesome. She is the voice of one of the major vampires on the new Castlevania animated series on Netflix. And
that's awesome.
And I had no idea. So I started looking up stuff about her, and she does a great job in the movie because she's the red herring. In the movie, you're supposed to feel bad for her for a while, and then suddenly, it twists, and you find out that really the whole thing that's been going on all along is that Vincent Price, the guy that you think is going kind of crazy, is actually just going to kill this lady's brother. And then the scene from the short story plays out where you get to see the pendulum swinging back and forth. And the set effects are great. The acting is great. The writing is great. The set itself was reused several times on other Westerns as well as other low-budget horror. In fact, there's a scene from Alucard. What's the Alucard name of the Alucard movie? I'm trying to remember. Tim, do you remember?
You're talking about the Son of Dracula?
Son of Dracula. So there's a scene from Son of Dracula where it shows the same lead-up castle that they used for this film, because this set that they used for it was reused a bunch of times. It's a great movie. Roger Corman, some people can consider it his best. Vincent Price, some people consider it his best. And that dude made Thriller. He helped make Thriller, gentlemen. Thriller.
You get no points for Thriller.
So I think that, like, when you're considering 1960s horror and what people did, and you go to the beginning of it, movies, these low-budget horror movies that really ushered in the decade, that used these physical effects. They did the flare-over lens where they would literally put wax and grease around the corners of the lens to make it look like a dream sequence. They do all of the low-budget tricks. And I got to tell you, man, it's fun to watch just because it plays out really well.
Sound argument. Now, I did not mention in the beginning when you said The Pit and the Pendulum, that is a movie I have seen. I'm going to reserve how I feel about it until later, but I did want to say, because I said I didn't see Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, but I did see The Pit and the Pendulum. So it's kind of like when Casey and Mike Kobe were on. Like, I saw one and haven't seen the other, so I definitely enjoy where this is going. So far, great argument. Tim?
All right, so coming at a little hard here. We got Vincent Price and Barbara Steele. So we have Corman versus Hammer. So this is going to be tough. And we have Price versus Vincent Price versus Christopher Lee, which, I mean, you're talking about darn near the Holy Trinity there. Now, I see that Mick is showing two of the stills here, or posters. Now, Dracula Risen from the Grave has two great posters. I'm going to start there because it's known as one of the best posters of all time. The one with Veronica Carlson who is a Bond girl. That's originally started as a Bond girl. She's got two pink Band-Aids on her neck. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, but people really love that poster, and I think it's a great poster. So I just wanted to bring that up. So Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. This is directed by Freddie Francis. As I said, it stars, of course, Christopher Lee as Dracula, his fourth time in the role in the fourth movie. You have Veronica Carlson, who is a former Bond girl, and then she was also in the Frankenstein Hammer films, so she's pretty well known. And then we have Rupert Grimes, who is he did a lot of Hammer stuff. We have Michael Ripper. There it is. Look at that poster. Legendary. So we have Rupert Grimes in this film as well. And then we have Michael Ripper, who is a very well-known character actor throughout all of the Hammer films. So why is this movie the movie I picked? Well, this one wasn't specifically against Dan, but I noticed that there was a lack of true, what I would call Halloween horror that has been mentioned yet in this real combat situation. Now, Army of Darkness, you can kind of get there, but outside, The Thing is a horror movie for, let's call it the winter, right? I mean, that's a winter horror movie. You watch it when you want to be cold, you open the doors up, and the other one was also in that theme. So I wanted to go something truly gothic. And let me tell you, you got it in spades. We open up in a church. We have a grave robbing in a foggy graveyard. There's a ton of fog in this movie. Also, this movie is important because I feel like it ushers in the beginning of what I will call the 70s horror, what 70s horror will become. Women are more scantily clad. The blood is definitely flowing in this movie. You have the before you have Savini's blood. You have the hammy red blood that is everywhere, and that is such an important part of this movie. And we move more towards there's more of a seduction in this Hammer movie, and it really moves us more towards what I would consider the modern horror of the 70s. So it's really a transitionary period. Also, it was a big commercial success. I mean, we're talking about, this is probably Hammer's highest grossing film ever. And it was one that really allowed them to continue making films. Now, I will say Hammer, get off track a little bit, but Hammer didn't really have as much success into the 70s because I think they started this era, but others took that torch and moved it on forward. But I do find it a very, very influential movie in moving forward into another era of horror. Now, I will say also the director, Freddie Francis, is a darn Oscar winner for cinematography, and this is a beautiful film as far as when it comes to like true Halloween gothic horror. There's, and they're doing lens tricks as well, as Dan said, but in this instance they're doing, they do red lenses and they tinge the ends a little bit, especially when Dracula's on screen, and that's supposed to give a bit of a more, I guess, like dreamlike, fantasy like tint to everything. If you even look at the smoke in this movie, it's green, which is odd, which is an odd thing, but it does give it a little bit more of a, you're definitely in a different world when you visit a Hammer film, and you definitely are when you watch this movie. So I'll start there, and we can go from there.
Well, I mean, both arguments have been. All right, here's the thing. This is how I know you guys listen to me when I talk on these shows that I do. It's because you know me so well. You both hit on points that, like, as soon as you said cinematography, won Academy Award for cinematography, I'm like, that's interesting to me. But, Pit and the Pendulum. I'm not, of course, this is not my verdict or anything. You guys still have, 2 more rounds to go. But you both have me on the ropes right now. I don't even know what to go with. Like, I'm looking at both posters. I'm like, this is awesome. But so far, you guys had some great arguments. Just going to come down to the wire. I know it. All right, Dan, your rebuttal.
Here's my rebuttal. So obviously Tim makes all good points. Dracula Has Risen from the grave, excellent film. But what you essentially have here is your quintessential slow burn versus instantaneous gratification. Okay, Dracula Risen from the grave did usher in this early 1970s kind of like rock and jock, I'd say, kind of horror, where a lot of like either alluded to or hard violence takes place in the movies. And it is an excellent example of what Christopher Lee was able to do with the character of Dracula. I mean, he is Dracula in that movie. I think it might be his best version of Dracula, possibly. However, Tim made this point about Halloween and Gothic horror. Mick, you cannot get more Halloween and Gothic than Edgar Allan Poe. Okay? This slow, character-driven narrative is not going to give you the instantaneous gratification or something maybe as alluring, might I say, as a Bond girl with a Band-Aid. But what you have is semi-accurate period piece dress. Yep. So in lieu of that, you have semi-accurate period piece dresses and settings, and the stuff, the set itself, though cheap, does not look cheap on the scene, and it draws you in, and it gives you this kind of creepy, unrelenting force that something like Dracula Has Risen from the grave is possibly missing. And the Pit and the Pendulum has this slow burn that really crescendos, instead of having some sort of like kind of like wobble where it stays kind of intense the whole time, that it goes higher. And at the end, when they are really revealing not just the red herring, but also the unexpected capture of what you would call the protagonist in the film. It is that kind of catharsis that every single slow burn works towards, and it's a perfect example of it. I also wanted to bring up this idea of aura. So fog, everything like that. The opening sequence of the Pit and the Pendulum, as they're running the title card, is this amazing psychedelic color field that just drew me back into the 1960s and made me want to listen to Pink Floyd while sitting right in front of a giant theater screen. Okay? It's this feeling, and it brings you into it. And the first thing you see is this like obviously it's a tapestry, but it doesn't look like that on the film, right? Of the castle in the background with waves crashing against a shore, and boom, you're there. It is that time period for you. And I think while having seen both of them, and they're like, what you have here is like the beginning and end of 1960s horror. And it's kind of interesting to contrast this. Both of them do a lot of the same things. However, I think The Pit and the Pendulum does the things that are important to 1960s horror better. So while Dracula Has Risen from the Grave has done all these great things that it does, it's ushering a new decade, while The Pit and the Pendulum is starting a decade. And I think that actually has a very profound and important message to send as far as, one, or two, the fact that this is Edgar Allan Poe and it is Halloween and we're talking about this kind of gothicness. So it rules supreme. If you're going to measure it on those categories, you're going to put them down and check off that list. I think the Pit and the Pendulum rules those categories while not downplaying the Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, because I really like that movie. Tim caught me off guard with it a little bit. I think it does those things better. And so if that's what you're looking for, I would go to The Pit and the Pendulum and not Dracula.
All fair points. Now, to start this rebuttal, I will say first and foremost, The Pit and the Pendulum, while based on Edgar Allan Poe, does not follow the story all that closely. So let's start there before we get into Edgar Allan Poe tie-ins with Halloween. But I'll take the start of Pit and the Pendulum, and I will raise you a bloody church rope being pulled down at the beginning of this film. And you want slow burn? This movie's got a little bit of slow burn in it. There is a darn near 10-minute scene of two priests walking up a hill with lightning coming down and a big gold cross. And there's exposition in there. There's everything you want in a long, drawn-out 60s horror scene. Now, it picks up, but you do have that scene. Now, the thing that isn't even a rebuttal, but the thing that is the most important part about this movie that I didn't mention in the first part is it has, and I will take this, it has the best pub in horror history. It is the Cafe Johann, and I had to look up that name because it's not mentioned very often. But you come into the scene, not the first scene, because that's in Transylvania and that pub's dreary and very sad because it's haunted by Dracula. But when they go to Germany, the German pub that they go to is one of the most fun and inviting pubs of all horror history, and I want to drink there so darn bad. And I will also raise this is, yes, slow burn's fun, and Barbara Steele is very good, but not only do we have Veronica Carlston, but we also have Barbara Ewing, who is and we have ourselves a love triangle, my friends. We have Barbara Ewing, who is the Diz, and we have Veronica Carlston, who is the Carmen. We have a Starship Troopers type love triangle currently going on. And let me tell you, you can pick one or the other. They're both great. But, Xena, who Barbara Ewing is one of the best tavern, women ever to be on screen. And she runs her bar really well. So as we get into this, I'm setting the scene for what is, you really feel like you're in a German pub and you are getting Dracula in Germany, which I find to be very fun. So I'm going to continue on with that. That is very good. Let's see what else is really drawing you in outside of the love triangle. I mean, you don't have a boob count, I will say that, but the cleavage is on display. This is a true late hammer horror film, and everyone is looking good. But there is eye candy for the females as well. Paul is shirtless several times in this film and is also looking pretty good. So I got to say, for not just for Mick, but for anyone looking to watch a movie tonight, there is good-looking people abound in this film. And let's not forget the one and only Christopher Lee. Now, in the original Dracula, they hinted at the thought of women possibly wanting to get their neck chewed by Christopher Lee. And that is a genuine critic comment from the original Dracula, A Horror of Dracula. This is the movie that I think finally establishes it. I think this is the movie. There are scenes in this movie where there is no doubt that there are plenty of women out there that would love nothing else than Christopher Lee to show up on their rooftop balcony. Let's talk about rooftops in this movie as well, because it is gratuitous use of Gothic rooftops. but to show up in their rooftop balcony one night and just see what happens. So I'm gonna just say, if you're looking for a little bit of your 60s, exciting, sex it up horror, I think you're moving in the right direction on this side. Now, that is a great dichotomy from The Pit and the Pendulum, which is a slow burn, haunting film. And Dracula can be very scary in this movie, but I think this is the movie that brought sexy to Dracula.
I realized I was muted there, but I'm like, I mean, that's a hell of an argument. Not that I'm like going after Dracula and how sexy he is, but like to say this is the movie that brought sexy to Dracula is an insanely bold statement, and I trust you on it. God damn it. Every time I pick two people, they're so good at this. Before we get into the last round, I do want to make a few announcements while everybody's watching. I want to thank everybody for watching and chiming in. Please, after the last round, I want to hear what the audience's choice is. We're going to see what it is, so make sure you go and vote on it. You can vote on it now or wait until the last round, but I do want to see what everybody says. I will ultimately make the final choice on who wins. Remember, everybody, we're going to have everybody back as they want to come back. If you want to be on Real Combat, message me. We'd love to have you on and pick a movie for me to watch. Now, that being said, I forgot to announce it last night. Because you guys are here and a couple of our patrons are here, I want to announce this month's Patron Prize. Since you guys are here.
Got mine right here. Oh, I tipped it under upside down. This is some good stuff right here.
Hey, eat those cookies. They're delicious. Like, I'm not
really
joking. Those are the best cookies I've ever had, and I don't really like cookies.
Oh, man.
They were good cookies.
Thank you. So an 8x12, which I thought was a very cool tin poster. So I think that was just a very cool drawing. So that's going to be an 8x12 winner. Now this next one, the Shining board game.
I own that. It's so good. I played it last weekend.
Well, then you're not winning.
Yeah, don't let Dan win that one.
So that's going to be the big prize. So everybody knows our patrons, we pick a name out of a hat every month, and they get a prize. So, I think everybody's won something at some point since we started. Yep. I love that poster too. I was like, oh man, I need to get that for myself. But I want to thank everybody for watching. We're going to get into the last argument, and then I'll make my decision. But again, I want to hear what everybody else has to say. So thank you guys right off the bat for doing this. You guys have put up a hell of a fight, and I'm like on the fence. I don't know, because Dan used really big words. That's the only thing.
He does use big words. He's an English teacher. I don't have that.
I'm going to bring a little bit more of the final argument. So no,
Tim, you dumbed it down for me. You're like, just sexy. You should be running like a PR company and just be like, no, it's sexy. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm kind of down with that. No, I kid. You guys were both made amazing arguments. I have not chosen yet, so it's anybody's game. I want to hear what each movie means to you guys personally, and why you chose it for this evening.
Okay, forget sex appeal. Dracula metaphorically represents Victorian oppressive ideals. And I'll say this, okay? The Pit and the Pendulum does add in that Vincent Price kind of baritone voice that comes through. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Vincent Price sexies it up. And so when I saw that Vincent Price was in The Pit and the Pendulum, I had to watch it. And I'll be honest, I watched it on DVD. And it was like this kind of experience, okay? It's this experience that comes in with it. And I think that it's so important to not stream it As I did stream it again today at lunch. I downloaded and streamed it at lunch just to like rewatch prior to the episode and everything. But I watched it at the cottage. Like the lakes outside, it was super foggy, and nothing was more Halloween to me in that moment, in that opening scene to the crescendo at the end with the giant blade. Oh, and there's a great camera work with the blade flipping back and forth that was way ahead of its time. Forget Raimi. Like, I think the first real like fast tracking shot like that came in the Pendulum, possibly Roger Corman. It was like moving really fast for the 1960s, Mick. But why I chose it? It's Edgar Allan Poe, man. Timmy's not wrong. So the Pit and the Pendulum is an extremely short story. It's like 5 pages or something like that.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to write about the dark.
Because it provides such a backstory to it, I actually think that it not just legitimizes the narrative that takes place in the Pit and the Pendulum, it actually makes it even better. In fact, so I had my Poe, I have a giant collection of Poe's stories, one of the gold leaf ones, and I had it up at the cottage with me, and immediately after watching the movie, and it was the first time, immediately after watching the movie, I pulled out the book and I read the short story. It made me want to read the short story that much more. And I got to tell you, man, Halloween, Edgar Allan Poe, slow Victorian burns that build to a single cathartic moment where you just can't hold back anymore and you just want that kind of like, how about sexy release? Yeah. The Pit and the Pendulum, man. And it fulfilled all categories for me. It was awesome. Dan Bob says, check it out. 4 stars.
4? Damn.
He has been Dan Bob before, so that's fair.
Ooh. That's a good argument. Tim?
The Pit and the Pendulum is a very, very good movie. And I also love that movie a lot. And I love all of Corman's Poe work. And I adore Vincent Price. I think I put out in the Discord many times the discussion of is it Lee, is it Cushing, or is it Price? Because it could be any of them, right? I mean, they're all just so darn good. And I'll say for my movie, what drew me to this movie originally, this was one of the first movies I think that I really got into older horror as far as Hammer and Universal is concerned. It was one of those movies like back when everyone had cable, as weird as that sounds, when I was just really starting to get back into horror movies. I saw this on TCM and I really liked seeing it on TCM. And I actually bought the TCM collection that has this, Horror of Dracula, and then the 2 Frankenstein movies as well. So it holds a special place in my heart just for the fact that it was one of the first movies that really drew me into the 60s and before universe of horror, which I really, really enjoy. And as most people can attest to on this chat, probably my favorite. It's what I tend to pick the most of. So I really like it for that. But I also like Dracula Has Risen from the Grave because I've mentioned the sexy, but it also has a lot of religious themes that are really interesting. And it has some lore around Dracula that hasn't been seen probably since. One, when you stake Dracula in this movie, you have to stake him with conviction, which means that you have to stake him with basically God on your side. So, and if you don't, which is actually a plot point to the movie because the main protagonist is an atheist. So you have an atheist fighting Dracula, and then you have this need for faith to be involved in it, and then there's a redemption arc for a priest. You haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it, but I will say it is a very interesting take on the combat of Dracula, and it's also the first movie without Van Helsing as far as Hammer is concerned. Cushing was in the first 3. This is the first one without him, and so it has a completely different vibe as far as how to combat Dracula, which I also find really interesting. And it's just, I don't know, it's probably my favorite Hammer Dracula movie. I don't specifically know why. I don't know if it's the pacing or if it's the cinematography or if it's the sexiness. I don't know if it's all of it, right? But it really just draws you in, and it is a super, super fun watch. Is it as good of a film as Pit and the Pendulum? I don't know. I do not know if it is specifically as good as Corman's film. But I will say, I think it's more fun. I do think it's more fun, and it never stops really moving. It is always cooking with gas, and it really just comes down to if you are looking for, like Dan said, late 60s, into the transition to 70s, heavy movement horror, or if you're looking for that slow creeping burn that exists within the Pit and the Pendulum. Both very good movies. I would say Dracula Has Risen from the Grave just because it's a movie that's near and dear to my heart. And I cannot stress how much I love the pub in this movie. I think I've said it many times. I think it's just a really, really unique take on Dracula, and one that you won't see in the first three, and definitely you won't see in the later 70s versions that get more into, I guess, cultish, I guess is what I would call the later 70s Hammer Dracula. This one is really unique. It's a transitionary period, but it's nothing like the later two or three, and it is very different than the previous three, obviously, with Cushing no longer being there holding down with Van Helsing. So it's just different.
Patricia, the breast count is 0.
There's none, but there is a lot of cleavage. I will throw that out there. You will not be disappointed.
This poster I can stare at all day. I will say
there's garters. There's garters. I mean, there is sexiness to be had, but sometimes the sexiness in what is not revealed versus what is revealed.
It's true. To the imagination. Oh, Patricia gives it 0 stars. I do not. I don't give it any stars until I see it. I will say this. This is a hell of an argument. Oh my God. You guys both had me. I went either way. And in a weird way, it was, you both had me with your arguments. And sometimes with things you said, you pushed me to the other one. Because you've intrigued me in some way. Like, maybe I should go check that out, or this. Like, especially Tim, your love for Pit and the Pendulum.
It's a very good movie. I would never diss Corman, especially not on some form of internet forum where someone could see it.
Very fair, very fair. All right, I have my decision. I hate to disappoint you guys. Can't disappoint one of the brothers, but I'm going to have to. Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
Woo!
It's a good movie.
Consider you haven't seen it, right? The Pit and the Pendulum, you can visit, but I'm telling you, this is a fun one. Hold on to your hats.
I am going with it because the argument of having not seen it, and everything that was mentioned about it was very intriguing to me. Now, I agree, Dan, Pit and the Pendulum, from what I've seen, is a very good Halloween type movie. Horror movie in general, but around Halloween time to watch. You were definitely making me want to go read the story, for sure.
It's a good story.
And watch the movie. But for this purpose, here's what won it. And it actually gave me a whole idea for another show that I want to bring you guys back on for. It was the German pub. I want to see the German pub.
You darn well do. It is amazing. And it is
awesome.
Throughout the movie. It is.
Makes me want to drink an Oktoberfest right now.
Yeah, and I want to watch it. I want to see the German pub. Then I want us all to come back on the Scene Snobs podcast, and I want to talk about the best bars in horror movies.
I have wanted to talk about this for a very long time. I will.
I already know the best one.
It's the Winchester. Is it the Winchester?
Hold on. It's the only one that has a sex machine, Tim.
Hold on. Okay. Well, that's not. Let's save it
for that episode. I will. After this is over, we can talk about when everybody's free and get you on the show, and we'll talk about that because I think that'd be a fun topic. That's what won it for me outright. Like everything you said, I'm intrigued. Like it sounds like a great movie. I can't wait to see it. Pit and the Pendulum. I now want to watch that, but I have to choose. I can't go double feature. So because I haven't seen it and I need to see this German pub, I'm going with Dracula Has Risen from the grave.
I actually wouldn't recommend these as a double feature.
No, it would be a weird double feature.
Weird double feature.
Hammer has movies that would fit with Pit and the Pendulum, but this is not it. This is a very transitionary period for Hammer. This is not early 60 Hammer.
Well, listen, I'm probably going to go double feature on these, and here's why. Because I'm going to get very high before I watch these.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That is a fair point.
But I have to choose a winner, and that winner has to be over here, Dracula Has Risen from the grave. Dan, Tim, you'll always be welcome on my shows. You know that. And I'm going to have a rematch here. There's going to be a rematch. It's not going to be 60s. We're going to move on.
There's going to be no rematch. There's going to be no rematch.
Even he did a rematch. I appreciate you guys coming on. I really loved your arguments. I love both these choices. And the posters are just amazing. I'm like enamored with them. And I want to watch both of them right now. So you both sort of won, but I have to give it to Tim on this one.
Fair.
You guys are amazing. I'm so happy to be friends with you guys. And I can't wait to have you back on and talk about best bars and horror movies. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Just kind of go through everybody. I think everybody kind of was mixed, too, on the movies. They're both big fans of both. As we can see, get pumped for the German film. I can't wait. This is a great debate. It truly is hard to pick one over the other. I love both movies. The Brothers' great arguments aside, The Pit and the Pendulum is a better movie. However, Tim is right. Dracula's Grave is more fun. All right. I mean, everybody... Poor Patricia. I keep accidentally clicking off as soon as I click them. It will be called Dan's Revenge. I love it.
The Empire Strikes Back.
Dan Pyre Strikes Back. Yes. Tim, you need to open up a PR firm. So I want to thank everybody for joining in tonight. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys for the movies. Stick around so we can talk a little bit afterwards and get that worked out. But you guys we're going to say goodbye to now. Remember, you can check us out on the scenesnobs.com. We got all our shows on there more. If you want to be on Real Combat, message me. I'd love to have you guys come on and definitely fight for your movies.
Smash that like button, son.
Scram, McFly. We're checking out the Scene Snobs.
Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and you can check out the Scene Snobs podcast live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, or you can check it out on any podcast platform or our YouTube channel anytime after that. Thank you to our Patreon supporters. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. If you guys want to join, check us out over on thescenesnobs.com. We have links for everything. The Scene Snobs merch store is open. You can check that out too. Links again on the site. Or follow, and subscribe on all of our social media. Again, head over to thescenesnobs.com.